So I'm going to try and get myself kind of where you're at. One thing I did notice was that your plants are pretty green, and in the video, the plants are pretty yellow. Blue. So you might want to go in and try and shift them a little. I actually am going to use this color blue and this kind of pale sagey green to try and build those. At this point, your probably only bet is to try and like push them or shift them a little. Something like this will lighten them and blue them, so that's probably a good bet. This is not a Crayola. It's called Cloud Blue. But there should be, if you got the full set of the Crayola, there should be something similar to that in there. So I'm not going to spend too much time getting the shape exactly right, just because I'm going to try and show you what I might do. One thing is, if you want to reduce the amount of like horizontal lines or parallel lines you have in yours, you could try and color with circles that overlap. It'll get rid of some of that, the streaky lineness of it. You're also going pretty dark already, which is fine, but you will find it's hard to push that color around with anything other than your darkest colors. This flower does have a weird stamen, like a curly, or the pistil, something coming out there that's like curly and twisty. And I kind of have already cut myself off from that because I colored this and it's lighter than this. It'll be hard to bring it back out. You might have done something similar and just kind of tried to make it dark. That's probably the best bet at this point if I'm already starting this way. I'm gonna leave mine a little lighter than yours so that you can kind of see how you might build the other one a little differently. So first I'm gonna kind of draw a line for the edge of this petal, and then I'm gonna shade under it. So I'm always gonna kind of shade out one side of a line so that I don't ever have just like plain lines. I've got, because this flower is like kind of like got like a crepey texture to it, sometimes it folds over and the individual petals will have like ridges on them. So I'm going to kind of try and capture some of that. Down in here, I'm going to have a little deep shadow between the petals. I want to make sure it's a shape, not just a simple line, because by making it a simple line, it's going to flatten it. If I make it a shape, it's going to look like it's an actual thing in the real world. So instead of just like drawing a line, I kind of like looped it a little there and observed that. I'm just going to leave that twisty thing out for now, just because I didn't really give myself a chance to put it in. Well, let's see what I can do. I'm going to take this indigo blue color here. And I'm not going to complete every part of the line because I feel like that's going to make it look more natural instead of just a hard outline. I'm going to just do like a lighter implied outline with a little bit of shading here and there. And I might take this color and bring it a couple other places in there. So now I'm going to take, it's kind of purpley, but I'm going to start with this pale blue that I had for the leaves. And hopefully this will mix with the red enough. I'm really burnishing it so that I'm not going to be able to really color over it much, but at least I've kind of got something there that I can live with. Anywhere I had a real dark line, it kind of showed through, so I've got to fake that somehow. It gets a little tricky there. All right, so I've got this little petal here, and I'm not going to make it exactly like the exact petals. You have this dark thing showing like there's one petal overlapping and just a little piece of another petal sticking out. So that's good. Again, shading off this line so it's not just a line. It's the top of a shadow instead. So first I draw the line. You can see it looks real linear, and then I'm going to shade it off. Draw this line. I'm not concerned if it's too exact because I know that with flowers, you get all kinds of different shapes and varieties, and that's what's cool. Everybody's like, oh, flowers are so hard because they have so many details, but the truth is, unlike a glass bottle or a cup or like a Coke can or something that's mechanical and mechanically produced, um, there's so much variation in flowers that I could create a believable flower and kind of deviate from the actual thing quite a bit. Whereas a Coke can, if I'm just like one side is slightly off from the other, everyone's going to notice it immediately as being asymmetrical. So in some ways, organic things, while they're complicated objects, they're so much easier because they're forgiving objects too. If I define the edge, I'm going to make sure that I shade it in so that the hard edge is not a line, it's more of a shape. Okay, so probably that's a little less round than I wanted back there. Now my final layer, I'm going to use this colored pencil and kind of go over everything, but I want to get all my deep shadows and stuff in there first. So now I'm using an indigo, so it's a dark, neutral dark blue. It's going to allow me to kind of push some of this contrast. And I don't want to go everywhere because it'll start making it look unrealistic. It's going to kind of act a little bit like a black. And if I go too strong with it, it'll kind of kill the whole thing. Again, thinking about it as a shape, not just a single line. Might really push some, layer some darkness here, not like really go all the way, but I definitely see there's like a darkness in here, in this part, even across this little, and all across in here. It's because this part of the flower is probably turned away from the light. And I'm going to be filling a lot of this in too, so it doesn't matter if it's not perfect over here. Like my edge, if I get outside the edge, it's okay because it's going to go on and be a part of the background. So this is this color called, they call it black grape. I've also seen this called other things, but this is a more reddish purple dark. If my blue is getting too specific. It seems like it's doing a lot of the same work, so I'm going to just start laying in the red. This is where I'm going to start pushing all the texture back, making sure my edge is real refined. You've got a nice refined edge, better than what I had started with, so you should be okay there. But if you feel like any of the edge could be just like crisped up a little, this is the time to do it. Remember, you could always push back with the background color too. Like here, I don't like, I put like a little horn on the end of there. I'll push back on that when I'm doing the background color. Letting my final layer of this color mix. I don't really manage this overlap, so I'm going to kind of leave that light so when I go to do that other flower, I can kind of control that edge and decide whether to push or pull it from one flower to the next. I don't want to like limit my options by like forcing it to be part of this flower right now. Okay. And then this little thing I did in here, I feel like it needs some more help to look more like a real object. So I might go in there with some white. It might not do a whole lot. I might go in there with some darks and kind of just make it look a little less outlined. Um, Maybe I'll even fade some of it into the background, so instead of seeming like an outline, it's just like the petal behind it is darker, and I'm cheating that idea, but I think by cheating it, I end up getting a result that's closer to the actual thing, because the actual thing doesn't look like outlined. So I'm okay with that, that it's getting cheated a little. I do like that just the edge here is catching the light, so the rest of it's got darkness to it, so I'm going to push back on that, leave just a little bit of the edge. Even this has got some textured shadows. This is how I might layer and separate some of these petals from each other, so I don't just have a red blob here. And I think I'm going to use this kind of like red or purple color and shift it, because right now I'm a little orangey. Okay, so I'm just shifting this a little away from this red orange, more into the purple orange, letting this color build up thicker and thicker and thicker. I always say it should be like you could ice skate on it. Obviously, that's not possible. So then I might come in here with the white and try and conquer some of that. Let's see if I can kind of whiten some of this edge here. Got all these little hairs on it and stuff. So I kind of think that's the way that you could kind of push the detail level and bring out some of that stuff is just by pushing the shadows, layering the petals using the shadow colors, adding a little detail to that pistil or stamen, whatever it is, and then adding some ribbing on some of them, and then nice clean edges. It's not paint, so once it's there, it's there. It's hard to remove it. And at the end, if I need white paint somewhere else to make any corrections or something, I might use a real thin brush and add a little rim line on this because I feel like it is catching a light, and maybe pop a little bit of whitish red here and there just to bring it out. Okay? And again, that those leaves down there, if I was to think about those, this is a much closer color realized to what they are. And you might be able to bring it back and you might not. And if not, don't fret, just kind of continue on how it is. And then I'll come in with a little bit light touch of that indigo. I might, if I was going to really do this, I might switch. The indigo is a little too strong, so I might switch to like a dark brown color, like maybe a sepia or umber or something, because I think that will help it like neutralize it a little bit, and it won't be like so intense in the shadowy parts. It won't be so colorful. I do have a black here, but that might be too much. My kit, hopefully your kit, has a wide range of grays, including some warm grays and some grays that are called French grays that are like a brownish gray. Those colors might actually end up being the colors that get us where we want to be the most. And then again, I'm going to come back through at the end with my pale color, burnish all this down. Burnishing is like rubbing it, like polishing it. So, and that'll look better once I have like the soil, this blackish brown soil around it. So I don't have a brown right now, so I'm not really doing it the way I should. But if you were to have this really dark brown soil, you could see how the really dark brown soil will give it some shape and some contrast. The nice thing about the dark colors is you can really use them to push and reshape things around the outside. So you can kind of see how that might develop, create some visual interest there. Okay? Hopefully that helped. If it didn't, then I'm sorry. I could try again. All right.